All right, so we are moving right along in our review of the standards we've learned this year. We've already started all the way back at the first standard, and today we're on standards 19 and 20. So we've reviewed a lot already too. Yesterday we looked at the Trail of Tears and how Andrew Jackson, when he was president, the Indian Removal Act forced him to move west. He wanted to do that so the country could keep expanding west. And this lesson talks a little bit about westward expansion, not so much as it does the north and the south, but we know that our country is moving west. And one of the things this lesson reminds us is that we began to move west with new technology during the Industrial Revolution. We could have steamboats that could go on rivers on the west. We would have steam engines, trains that could go on railroads towards the west and take people west. And so we began to develop as a country towards the west. But also we want to focus on two things about the North and the South. Now, the North and the South had very different ways of life. In this North, especially during the Industrial Revolution, a lot of factories began to be built. And so people were going to work in the factories. We're going to see that in a video in just a minute. So, and people went to the cities where the factories were to live so that they could have a job. So people moved off the farm in the North, off the rural areas, and more into the cities in the North to work in the factories. That's called urbanization. Urban area is like a city area. So cities becoming bigger, more people moving there is urbanization. It began during the Industrial Revolution when workers moved toward manufacturing hubs or factories in cities to obtain jobs in factories as agricultural jobs became less common. So in the North, there's a big emphasis on factories and big. I always sneeze when I'm recording these lessons. Sorry about that. Every time it seems like. So in the North, there's a big move towards factories. In the South, it's still a lot of farming. Remember, we're talking, we kind of ended all of our standards after the Civil War. This is pre-Civil War time. This is before the Civil War time when the United States was just still pretty new. And so in the South, you had these big plantations being formed. You see the big plantation home where the master would live that owned the farm, the planter. And then he'd have his slaves, and he'd have this slave masters who would go out in the fields and make sure the slaves were working. What's it look like they're picking in this field? Cotton, probably, right? So see this guy with a big bucket of white stuff on his head. Sure, that's cotton. What else do you see in this picture that lets us know that this is during the Industrial Revolution time? What's back there on that river? It's a steamboat, isn't it? Maybe these slaves are picking cotton and they're putting it on the horse cart. The horse cart will take it to a dock somewhere and sell it and load it on the boat. It'll be taken to a factory up north so they can make clothes in the textile mills in those factories. So remember the North, a lot of big cities, a lot of people in the cities working in the factories. In the South, it's farm life. It's the big plantations. And during the same time, the Industrial Revolution began to happen. So you're going to have a little video on the Industrial Revolution. So you see here, some of that cotton's been spun into yarn, and these ladies are working on these machines, and they turn them into the yarn and the thread and the spools of thread like they could use to make clothes back then. And so that's the instructional part of your lesson today. What I want you to do is the standard right here says that you need to know the significance of four things in the Industrial Revolution: water mills, the influence of geography. Also, obviously, if you have a water mill, what does it have to be beside of? It has to be beside of water, right? So the water is going to turn the wheel. Robert Fulton, he created the steamboats. Samuel Slater had the factory system, those textile mills like the one in the picture here. He had the first one of those. Oops, where'd it go? And then Eli Whitney, the cotton gin. Remember, it picked the seeds out of the cotton so that the slaves could produce more cotton, and which caused bigger plantations and need for more slaves. Didn't help the slaves out at all, did it? Well, these four things is what you're going to look at for me today. So we're going to kind of do what we've been doing a lot this week, is using the internet to add some pictures and details. So the first one is water mills. These are the order they're going to go in. analyze the impact of the American Revolution. So what we want to know is how they impacted America. How did they help us during the Industrial Revolution? So add image or images and a written description of how the water mills impacted America. So we can obviously watch the video and learn that. We can go to a tab and we can type in how did the water mills impact America. But we got to have a picture too, so we're going to use our insert image tool, search the web, and we're going to type in water mills. Okay, so we've got some really cool water mills. We're just going to drag them over here and put them in the slide for water mill. So do you remember what these water mills did? We talked about them when we were studying the Industrial Revolution. They turn something on the inside, don't they? We talk specifically, if you've ever been over to Cades Cove, whoops, click somewhere when you start typing where you can see it. There it is. Okay, so in Cades Cove or at Dollywood, the water mill there, it spins and it crushes the grain and it produces flour and or cornmeal, and then they make those delicious cookies and monkey bread in there with the flour they crush at Dollywood. You know what I'm talking about? So what could we say? Well, the water mills made it easier for farmers to produce flour, and I think you might need to type it before you put your picture in because you can't see flour and cornmeal for their families or to sell. Okay, so just put me some fact in there. One fact. You can look it up. You may know something about it. Okay, and then include your picture as well. I'm going to make this a little bit neater. It kind of got off center, didn't it? All right, and you can change the font color if you want to. You can go up here and click on that. There we go. Okay, so that's how you're going to do those slides. So you've got the water mill one. I did one example for you. You've got the cotton gin on the next one. You've got steamboats, and you've got the factory system. All right, so use your web, use your search bar, search for these things for some information, a fact that you can learn about them, and then find a picture in your insert image tool right there, okay? So I already kind of showed you how you need to do it, so I'll let you take off now and get these done as we review the Industrial Revolution. See you later.